Tenderhearted, the podcast for those of us who struggle with being extra sensitive in a less than sensitive world. This is your host, Amy Kelso. I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and advocate for anyone who is tenderhearted or cares about someone who is. Okay, hello, welcome to episode 4 of Tenderhearted. I am your host, Amy Kelso, and today what I want to do is talk about some of the things that come along with being a tender heart. There is a lot of great things, and we will talk about a lot of great things as well, but there's 2 things especially that often show up with being tenderhearted that could cause some troubles. So I want to talk about those, and this is true, whatever age the tender heart is. So the 2 things that really show up a lot are depression and anxiety. So what I'd like to do today, we're going to talk about depression, and probably next time we'll talk about anxiety and how that plays out. Keep in mind, I do want to remind everyone watching this, I am not, this is not medical advice. This is just some information. Do some more research. Tender heart is not a clinical diagnosis. You may have other underlying things. So obviously, if there are other issues, you want to see a medical professional about that. But some of this just helps you understand. So let's talk a little bit about depression and why it tends to show up so often with people who are tender-hearted, which I think somewhat is kind of obvious because being tender-hearted means that you have strong emotions, right? Which means when you're happy, you can be really, really happy, over the moon happy, which is wonderful. But of course that means that when you're down, you're a lot more down. The roller coaster is a lot, more to it when you are a tender heart, just because of all those emotions. So be aware if you are a tender heart, or if you care about someone who is, depression often comes along with that. I think part of that too, as a tender heart with empath and being able to feel other people's emotions, you can pick up on other people's feelings, right? And so sometimes there's times when you'll be depressed and you'll have no idea why, and then later you'll be like, oh yeah, well, there was that person who was upset. I mean, one time I was driving home from a meeting with a group of people crying, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, what? Day was fine, why am I crying? And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, well, when I was talking at lunch with my coworkers, one of them was talking about how her boyfriend had broken up with her and she was so upset about that. At the time, I was just listening and taking it in. Later, though, I was crying over the situation that had nothing to do with me because I picked up those emotions. So I think one of the important things, if you are an empath or if you're helping someone who is, to really learn to understand the difference between what emotions are yours and which ones you're picking up from other people. So part of that, I think, is really stopping when you are upset and saying, okay, what's the trigger? What caused me to be upset? Sometimes there isn't anything, and that's part of the fun of depression, right? Is sometimes you don't know why you're upset. But a lot of times you can go back and go, okay, well, maybe there's not a reason I'm upset, but there's some triggers that kind of set it off. What is it that made me feel this way? And by doing that, you can at least acknowledge, okay, is this feeling mine or is it somebody else's? I don't need to be depressed over something that isn't even something that I need to worry about. It's not helping anybody for me to be depressed over it, right? So learning how to do your best to kind of let that go, which is not easy. But again, a lot of it is about awareness. So depression does run within tender hearts. A lot of them deal with some sort of depression. And again, it may be external sources. It may be, being around other people who are upset will cause you to be upset. Sometimes you just get upset because the world is upset. I don't know. I know for me and for lots of people that I spoke to, 2020 during the COVID epidemic, a lot of people were really struggling emotionally. Even for me, I taught online. I taught online before that. I continued to teach online. My life itself didn't really change that much. But I went through a whole bunch of emotional issues, and I really think a lot of it was kind of picking up the energy from the universe. So sometimes it might not even be anything directly, but you're just feeling the vibes. So again, it's really important to kind of be aware of, are these feelings mine or are they someone else's? And if they're someone else's, I don't need to hold on to them, right? And if they're mine, maybe I don't need to hold on to them either. Maybe I just need to understand why I'm upset, which all sounds wonderful and lovely. And when you're not depressed, you can think of all those things. One of the things I like to describe depression is kind of like, you've heard the phrase, you see somebody through rose-colored glasses. Everything looks rosy and beautiful, right? When you're depressed, it's like you're wearing gray-colored glasses. Nothing looks rosy. Nothing looks beautiful. Everything looks sad, depressing. And the depression, the way I just try to remind myself over and over is depression lies. It tells you only the negative, and it makes the negative 20 times worse than it is. So again, it's hard when you're caught in depression to remember that. But if nothing else, just go, okay, this depression is lying to me. This isn't true. This is my, worries, my fears, but it doesn't make it true, and I don't have to give into it. Will it stop the depression? Maybe not, but maybe it'll help a little. So that's one of my suggestions, just kind of be really aware what's causing the depression and remind yourself that the depression is not true, because when it hits, it can really seem like it is. Now, if you care about somebody who has a tender heart and they are going through depression, obviously that's got to be really hard for you. You want to help, you care about this person, you want to help them. There's not a lot you can do. What I would say is the best thing is to be there for someone. Let them talk if they want to, or be quiet. Just let them know that you're there. And sometimes they may not want you there, and that's okay too, but say, I'm here if you need me. The one thing I will warn about is a lot of times people say, well, I'm here if you need me, just reach out. The problem with that, of course, is when you're feeling depressed, one of the hardest things in the world is to ask for help. Because when your depression hits, a lot of times you hear it saying, nobody likes you, you're a burden, you cause trouble to others. The last thing you're going to want to do then is reach out to someone and cause them trouble and make that be a burden to them. So you end up pulling inside, and you don't want to talk to anybody, because I don't want anyone to go through this with me. They don't want me, they don't need me, I don't want to do it. So it's really hard when you're depressed to reach out. So a suggestion that I give, especially I give this a lot to parents of children with tender hearts, but it's good with spouses, anybody that you care about, is to create a code word. I actually, when I was in college, I came up with one that was based on a book that I was reading, but my code word was pink curtains. It tied into the book, but otherwise it's like, what? But that was a word that I knew, and I had certain friends that I said, if I ever call you or whatever and say pink curtains, that is my way of saying help. Because help is the hardest word in the world to say when you need it the most. So it's helpful for if you're someone who cares about someone who does deal with depression, whether they're a tender heart or not, is to give them the kind of that, let them have that code word of saying, I need help, but I can't ask, so pink curtains, or whatever the phrase is, something that's just a signal to you, oh, okay, they need me, so let me try to be there for them. And again, a lot of times just being there for them is literally being there. Just being there, listening to them if they want to talk, hugging them, whatever it takes. But know also that you can't stop the depression, but even if you can't stop it, not having to go through it alone means a lot. So don't be afraid to offer and be like, okay, I hear you, you need my help, let's talk, or just sit, let's just sit here and don't try to fix it. Because again, if it was something that was easily fixed, they would have fixed it probably years ago, right? It's something that they can't control either. So when you try to fix it, what happens is they will try to make you feel like you fixed it, because they want you to be happy at least. I can't be happy, but at least I can make you happy. So I'm going to act like I'm happy, because then you'll feel like you saved me and helped me out. And then they start to mask, and then they hide what they're really feeling, because they don't want you to feel hurt as well. So just be very careful about not trying to fix it, not trying to blame them or anything else. Just be there and be supportive, because that's the best you can do. So hopefully that helped a little. As I said, probably next week we will be talking about anxiety and how that plays into everything. So I will talk to you then. Have a wonderful day.